what I really wanted to do was strategize a little bit about how we're going to get these 500. Kelvin, you are so incredible. You're amazing at the way you get people to sign. I've never met anyone as good as you. You're fabulous at that. So I thought it might be really helpful for you just to, and I know I didn't give you really any warning, but if you can tell us a little bit about how it is that you actually get people to sign. What is it you do? What's your strategy? Do you have a method or?
No particular method. It's just you want to smile, you want to be friendly. And even if someone comes across, I've had a today that, no, I think sign today, but maybe another day, go on there, the website. And what I do at this point is I say, well, we're running out of, so I have a feeling we may not have you sign the opportunity. I try to get people today, if we had another, try to explain that it doesn't home right off. This is what it doesn't do. I feel bored at that. And today I had a 90-year-old call me while I was out on 9th Street. And where do I go to sign? I saw it on next door. She goes, yeah, about tour. And I said,
Wow.
well, I was going to give her the address to my house. And I said, but without telling me where you live, what street are you? Because I'm on Newport. I go, I am looking at Newport. I'm on 9th Street. I'll meet you on the corner of 9th and Newport. She was there in 5 minutes with her daughter who was driving, who was visiting from Texas. She signed it. So
Wow.
I said, boy, that means really no reason to say they don't. This woman's 90, left her house, car.
She drives
Honestly,
at 90?
no, it was her daughter.
Oh,
There's a woman that's willing to go the extra. And of course, I was willing to walk a block to meet her, but I was over in that area.
As you know, I put my phone text in on my 2 Facebook listings and my LinkedIn and my X, and I think I did on Nextdoor too. And I've had a message from one person on Nextdoor who she and her daughter want to sign. And then I texted you 2 other people who texted me today. And then I guess the article, I'll say, welcome, John Summer. It's good to have you. John just sent us an article, the article that came out in the Trib at about 4 o'clock today. So I imagine they didn't get a chance to include our responses, but I haven't been able to read it because I don't subscribe to the Tribune, so I can't get past their paywall. But eventually MSN or Newsbreak will come out with it and I'll be able to read the article. I had a similar experience today, another good experience. And I want to relay these because I think the people of Grover should know that there really is a high level of interest. I was standing in Trader Joe's and there was a woman standing behind me who said, hey, you're Debbie Peterson, aren't you? You're the one who's been working on tall buildings. And I said, yes. And she said, well, I'm the one in Pismo Beach whose little old house down in downtown is going to be completely overwhelmed by a big tall building. And she said, we talked on the phone once before and we'd spoken a couple of times. And so that was really neat because she'd been watching our meetings too. She wasn't able to do anything about her situation because there weren't enough people in Pismo, she said, who cared enough to get involved. So we know there's a lot of positive interest, and that's good news, I think. One of the things that Jeff Boyer said to me when he was going to start circulating, he says, it's a no-brainer. When you say to people that when they're signing, all they're saying is, let's put it on the ballot and let the people of Grover decide. He said, it's a no-brainer. Most people, because they can vote against it if they want to. They're just saying, let's have an opportunity.
I had someone that said that yesterday. He goes, I don't think I would vote for this. And I go, oh, you have time to think about it if it's on the ballot. And he goes, well, let's just put it on the ballot and let's see what people decide. Well, that's good. A really good attitude.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what democracy is about.
Story that happened yesterday. The first house I knock on, she goes, I recognize you from being on TV. She goes, I watched the meeting on channel 20.
You got her, she got her son. But then I always ask them, is there anyone else that you can encourage to come sign? Often there is, which means we can double up on what we did. And one of the other suggestions that we simply haven't had time to pursue, Andrea Seastrand suggested this to us, is that we really ought to have some kind of a walking sheet that just puts out the main points of the ballot measure. Because what we could do with that is at the homes where there's no one home, you can drop that with a little handwritten note that says, sorry, I missed you, and your phone number. And then they can go to the website. And could you tell us the website again, Kelvin, so everyone has it?
SaveGroverBeach.com.
SaveGroverBeach.com. And that has the petition on it.
Yeah, there's a link to it. So you
Great.
click that and then and it has my phone number on it, and I don't mind.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I always put my phone out there. I think that's the right thing to do. It feels a little risky sometimes, but I've never had a bad experience with it in probably 25 years. I've
We
had
watch too
I've
many
had good
movies.
experiences.
I can tell you another thing that happened today. I walked my dog to the beach, really nice morning. So I always carry the clipboard with. Stood on the entrance to our little pier, and I was there for about 45 minutes. Probably talked to one person, a resident of Grove, let alone register to vote. Talked to some people
Oh,
from
wow.
Idaho, other California, Fresno. So I guess at this point we don't want to spin our wheels at a place tourists go. They can't.
So
And you get people from Pismo, and they're not tourists, but they. I think sticking to the walk sheets, especially for us this late in the game, is more productive. I got an hour at the beach.
when you walk, sometimes you walk with someone else. Is that right?
Yeah, sometimes like today and yesterday, Mike and I, my neighbor, we just split it up. I'll take this block, you take that. But today we did it together, and you would think not as effective, but I thought it was very effective. You have a husband and wife, so you get two people to sign at the same time, and something about opening doors to one person to maybe two people. Maybe it's a little safer, especially if you got a man and a woman tag team. Today it was two male. Yeah, definitely. I think it's less threatening to a female who may be living alone.
What do you do in a situation where no one answers, but you're right in front of a Ring doorbell? How do how do you?
What I do is I just show our Save Grover Beach logo.
Oh, you mean you just put it up
Yeah.
to the Ring bell?
And I had someone come on the ring bell and say, "Well, just have my daughter sign." I try to carry that with me and to
So for
people, and
people,
then identify.
I'm going to try to get you a little walk sheet this weekend so that we can hand that out to people, because I think we'll get a lot more signatures if we have that to leave where people aren't home. For people who are thinking, I really like to circulate these, but I'm kind of nervous. I've never done it before. One of the things I've done is put in the chat a cheat sheet on how to do it, what you can, what you can't do, that kind of thing. And I know any of us are always willing to have someone go out with us so they can get familiar with it. One of the things people always ask me is, well, what do you say? You get to the door, what do you say to people? So what's your intro? What do you say, Kelvin?
I say I'm here for the No More Tall Building Initiative to get it on the ballot. So when you say I'm here for no more tall buildings, you're stating what the initiative's about. You're saying while you're there, there's the little logo that says Save Grover B. And then they say, well, some people know all about it too now, but if they don't, I try to stress that I speak in general terms. It's to lower the heights, future commercial. And I ran into two lawyers. I spent 15 minutes talking to lawyers, and then they didn't sign. I lost a lot of time.
That's another important point, because sometimes you will get time wasters, and time is of the essence with this. So without being rude, we want to make sure that we are putting our time in the very best way possible. So there are two things that you do that work. One is you've always got your clipboard with you. And I do the same thing. And John Summer will tell you, we had lunch the other day and he ended up signing. And I tried to recruit someone else at Little Bits, but fortunately they'd already signed. Carry it with you all the time. Each one gets one. So for people who are nervous about knocking on doors, well, just, go see your friends and neighbors, your family members, people that you know whose voter registration is at a Grover Beach address. The most efficient, all of it's good. We want everybody to do all of it, but the most efficient is knocking on doors. And there are still 6,000 doors that we haven't reached. 6,000 voter doors. Well, actually, that's not true. 6,000 voters, which is probably more like 3,500 to 4,000 doors. Tell me again, how many doors can you knock on in an hour?
I would say 30. If you're getting people to open the door, then figure it's going to take you about 5 minutes to get a signature on. So if you're getting 10 signatures
out of 30 or 40 doors,
that's 50 minutes. So
and
you figure the other 10 minutes are knocking on doors. And that's something that I was Linda the other day. I always ring the doorbell, but I knock. A lot of doorbells don't work. They're older homes. I don't wait that long. I figure maybe wait 20, 30 seconds. And if they happen to open the door late, I might be on the sidewalk and I'll turn around, but I don't want to waste a lot of time standing at a doorway for someone to open the door. So I knock, I do that. I wait at the most 30 seconds. And there's
I
a
always
possibility.
knock because knocking often, I don't know if this is really true, but I've heard this and it seems right to me. Usually your friends and family will knock on the door. They won't necessarily ring the bell. So I always knock because it's more friendly. And as you say, doorbells don't always work. And I don't even have a doorbell.
I
I
don't
don't
Yeah.
either.
I don't have one either. I do both if they're there. And there was another thing that I think about is let's say you do knock and you ring the doorbell and you don't leave, and then you ring the doorbell again. Now you're there for a minute and a half. As a male, I don't really think of it in my own home. But if I was a female and the guy wasn't leaving with the
Yeah, it's kind of
clipboard,
scary.
and you're looking through the peephole or looking on the ring camera, I think that there might be feeling of a threat if you're
Hmm.
there for a few seconds to leave.
And it's also more, it looks as if doing something. You're not just spying on them as part of your process.
Debbie,
Oh, yeah. John,
John Summer
welcome.
here. I'm not showing myself because I split my lip and I don't look
Woo!
great. But yeah, you mentioned we had lunch last week for the edification of the Walters and Jonathan and so on. Debbie and I have known each other for years. I'm concerned. I just moved to Grover from SLO, and I've been watching all this development here, and I'm just concerned about it. And Debbie told me that there's so much more going on than what I see, which concerns me. I sent you an article today, Debbie, and you mentioned that from the Trib about the city council and the mayor and so on. And would you please tell us what their initiative is as far as allowing this to happen? Do you think it's because they just need a tax base or what's going on?
The tall buildings.
Yes.
Honest,
Yes.
very bluntly, I think that for both the city manager and the community development director, it looks good on their resumes and it nets them higher salaries if they can, and this is quite cynical, but I think probably accurate, if they can, if they've got, gosh, we added, I don't know, 400, 500, 600 homes in this little town. And of course, the state loves it. Their state gives them accolades for doing that. And they don't live in Grover Beach. And they were never part of the visioning that we started in 2004 and then continued with the West Grand Master Plan and then our local coastal program. They weren't part of any of that. A lot of the times the people who are signing are the 90-year-olds and the 89-year-olds and the people who were part of that, whose vision was shared, who were engaged by the city and who said, here's what we want. And what we got is not what we wanted. A lot of people say, oh, they got to be getting money under the table. And that's not an unusual or even unreasonable necessarily conclusion to reach. I have absolutely no evidence of that. And I will never say that unless I have evidence of it.
Well, you wrote a book on it, but
yeah, but
why did it?
I wrote a book
Go ahead.
on it, but that was based entirely on the evidence that I had. There's a lot I didn't write on stuff that I wasn't able to document well enough to publish. I know you understand that part of it. I think it would be really helpful, John. I know, well, I should introduce you to my John. Jonathan Sudano is my son. And John Summer and I talked about our
John.
kids when we had lunch.
Nice to meet you, Heather.
You got a great mom, by the way.
Oh, I know. You don't need to tell me.
Thank you. John, do you have advice for us? I know you've been in media very successfully all of your life. I'm sure sometimes you look at it and you go, gosh, they ought to do this. Do you have any advice for us on things that you think we could be doing that would help us get those 500?
Debbie, what concerns me is that you had a set of rules to run under with the petition, and then they changed the rules. To me, based on my experience, is basically they want to make it tougher for your petition to get through. I don't know what you can do about it, but Grover is always kind of a weird complex of people in their local government, and you've got some strange ones there now. And I don't know. I mean, you know better than me, but I just moved here, so you tell me.
Well, what's interesting is that yes, they did move the goalposts, but what's very interesting is that 2 years ago we did two different kinds of measures. We did a recall successfully, and we did a repeal of water rate successfully. And in those cases, we had until about the beginning of June to get our signatures into the city and still get on the ballot. So what the city's done, well, initially both Linda and Kelvin here went to the county to get the voter list, because when you have the voter list, you know whose door to knock on, and you can be much more efficient. And you get emails as well, so you can email the voters about these kinds of issues. What happened to them was very different to what's happened to me. In 24 years of doing this, every time I've gone in and asked for the voters roll, they've emailed it to me that very day. Now you have to sign your life away. With Kelvin and Linda, they said, oh, it's going to take 10 days and up to 10 days. And it took 8. So they knocked 8 days off our collection time at the county. And I said, I wonder if the county and the city are talking about this. Well, sure enough, the law allows us a significantly more time to collect signatures and still get it on the ballot. But the county of San Luis Obispo has published guidelines, which specifically say, this is not the law. These are simply guidelines. Here's what we suggest you do. And the guidelines, if you work back all the various dates that the government agencies need to do what they need to do in part of their process, only gives us until April 22nd. The number is
793.
We call it 800, but we also know we always have really diligent signature gatherers, and most signature gatherers have about a 30% fail rate. We only have a 20% fail rate, and that's because we've trained one another well, and everybody's really diligent. They want to do it right. They want it to work. In order to get 800 good signatures, we really need to pick up 1,000, because you'll get people who maybe their signatures don't match and so they don't get counted, or maybe they don't spell out the name Grover Beach and the registrar of voters wants them to spell it out. There are various reasons.
You can't read the writing.
You can't read their writing.
I mean, I had one person write Grover City and I had him do it again. So
yeah.
An old timer.
Yeah, that's a political hot potato. At least it was, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. They did this to us last time. We had to take them to court, and Judge Van Ruyen said that the city was violating election law and commanded, that was his term, he commanded them to release our petitions so we could circulate them. The process is a little different on each kind of ballot measure. And last time we had a tax one and a recall. The rules are pretty much the same on this one, which is a citizens initiative. And we talked about doing a walk day next weekend. So that means you probably need to be emailing people and getting them G'd up to do that.
My thing is, I don't know if we can get them together.
I mean, you can ask.
It's the people who maybe are less secure about it, or who need that. They need to be with a whole group of people to get their nerve up to do it.
What you don't want to do is, I had someone today said to go back to a restaurant is okayed by the owner and set up a table there. And I said, how did that work out for you the first 1-2 hours? We don't have that luxury to get one signature in 2 hours. So let's walk on, let's keep doing what we're doing. And that particular person is calling me up and go, okay, I'm going out again, to walk the neighborhoods. And so I think our strategy, if we had till June or July, I think we'd have the luxury of doing things like that.
We don't have that luxury.
We've got to go knock on
with
doors.
What works.
So the question is, how do we get the people to walk on doors? And I think it's having a walkathon type occasion. Start out with donuts, answer questions, hand them the flyers that they can take with them. I think doing those little flyers will be extremely helpful, because then every time someone doesn't answer, you leave them a little flyer and tell them, hey, go to the website or text me if you want to sign.
And I do leave flyers sometimes doorstep, but I know there's a registration.
Well, that's our final push. That's when it's really, that's when we've really got to pull out the stops.
That's where you're not leaving flyers on the doors anmore.
You should still. You never know. I mean, if you grab 10, that might be 10 that you wouldn't have had otherwise. We've had many elections in this county where people have won by 1 or 2 votes. And if it doesn't take more time and it pulls in 1 or 2 votes, one of the measures we did, we only had 12 more than we needed. Can you imagine if we hadn't picked up those last 12, that last little push? That 1,001 might be the one, as you just said. We have found in the past when we've just dropped flyers on doorsteps, it has made a difference. Flyers need to have a call to action. The flyer we have isn't a call to action. We need
the calls I have had are from next door. That seems to be.
I'm not saying they're the only way to go. I'm saying for everybody you miss, you've touched them. And you leave the door open for them to come back to you. If Andrea Seastrand, who recommended it, and she sure knows her stuff about campaigning.
Former congressman.
And assemblywoman.
Can't seem to get anybody to respond. I've tried group texting, email, and out of like 38 people, maybe we'll get back to to respond, if we're trying to get them to.
I have my list too, so I'll email my list. Guilting people doesn't usually work. It usually has to be, help, we need your help, or last chance, if you don't do this now, it's not going to work. we're desperate. Can you
Yeah,
help? Is
yeah.
probably the message.
How about a phone call versus an email?
To their phones.
They don't answer their phone.
Or a text, a text. You probably have to do all three. And it's unfortunate, but you know, a 10% response rate, sadly, is actually a really good response rate if you're just doing a blind mailing.
10%.
No, we don't. But that's what I'm saying. Boost it with personal phone calls and emails. Leave them a voicemail. Well, if you don't do it, it's going to do nothing. It's better to
Right.
try than not to
Yeah.
do it at all.
Yeah, well, I'll try again.
As
I've done all
discouraging
three
as
of
it can be.
I
Yeah.
will say one thing about our little flyer that I was earlier in the week. I knocked the grandmother babysitting the grandkids. The parent, the daughter and the son-in-law were not home. I said, well, here, my name on this flyer. And I actually got a text from her saying, we want to sign that petition.
One of the things that really works for me if I have a little flyer is I personally write in advance on the flyers, and I usually only give them to people where I missed the house. And I write in advance in my own writing, sorry, I missed you, Debbie. And then I put down my phone number. It's that kind of personal touch that seems to work. You demonstrated that in the way you did it, even though you gave it to her personally, but it was, you wrote your number on it. That was personal.
Flyer.
Well,
Yeah.
since you guys have, if you've got any of those left over, I'd use what you've got for now. It's better than nothing. And I'll try to design and print a few more. I don't know if I have, I don't know if I have any of yours right now, but if you want to send me one, email me one, if you've got time, then I can try to keep it consistent with your design. I think we got to just keep chasing people. But knocking on doors, if we were to knock on all the door, if we were to just knock on the doors, a couple hours a day is about the most you can handle. If you can get 20 a day and we have 25 people getting 20 a day, we're all set.
If only we had, it's not the knocking on the doors. It's
So,
unfortunately, I would say we have 6 to 8 maybe dedicated people.
Yeah. That's why the each one get one is good. And that's why I think it's good to leave something on the doorstep too, just in case we can mop up a few others.
Case in point, I won't name names, but I told someone, this, we need to get out there more, and 2 or 3 people can't carry this over the finish line. And that person's stepping up now.
Well,
So,
and I think that's a good message. We don't want to be too negative in the message, but 2 or 3 people have been carrying this. We really desperately need we need more of you to carry it over the finish line. That might be a good message too.
Unfortunately, a couple of those people are going away on vacation. And so,
well, let's not talk about what won't work. Let's
That's
talk
right.
about how we're going to make it work.
And I know people in apartments do register to vote. So,
Yeah.
I'll hit the ones that are a little harder to go up to, where you have to go up a stairway and down a dark
Right.
hallway. Or
You get
something,
more exercise. Yeah. There are a lot of people from South Grover who were signing in the park. People in South Grover are just as annoyed as people in North Grover. They're just
Right.
as upset about it. There've been a lot of people who you haven't met because I'm bringing in people. So I'll work on my network as well. I would start following up with people like that too. How can I get you
Yeah.
the seats? We're desperate now.
One of our-
Tuggle.
Once on our councilman.
Tuggles, who says this is only an issue for 25% of the city, which tells you she has never read the local coastal program, because this is a statewide issue. The local coastal program isn't about the people who live in her neighborhood. It's about the state. It's about it being a natural resource that should be preserved.
And you don't need to modify the LD. It's already written
No,
there.
it is
I was
there.
just trying to give it a little more teeth. You go against
Yes.
Chairman Mann on the planning. There's no leeway to wiggle out.
I think it's good that you're doing that. I think we're kind of doing a good tag team, because I'm saying it's there. Go look, go read it. And you're
It is
saying,
there.
but if you're not going to, then let's do this. How did you feel about the meeting?
Well, personally, to me, they want to cater to the builder. They don't need to, because they've already met their arena. Solstice project units that's going to go down there. They're not including those numbers in their arena numbers. If you include them, they're up like 4%.
Yeah, and they've got a lot more in the works. They've got other
Yeah,
ones in the
so-
works that,
And
yeah, even without,
you can reevaluate a project that's not approved, and maybe tone it down a little, especially since it's the gateway to.
well, and especially since we now know what works. We know that you can build affordable housing, and we know that you can make a profit on buildings under 33 feet because they're doing it.
Right.
Did you notice that the only people speaking in favor of the project were people who made their living as developers
Builders.
or
Oh, yes,
or
they were
their
planted. I'm
associations?
pretty positive they were
Now,
planted.
I had a guy that signed yes, and I thought he was going to be a quick no. I'm a builder. I have an office on Grant. He goes, but this is stuff like down, right? And I go, yeah. He goes, I'll sign it. And I said, I'm glad you're going to sign it. Can I ask you why? He goes, I'm a union guy. They don't use any union people down there. He goes, and the quality is, I don't like the fact that they never use, he goes, I know who the builders goes cheap. I will sign this in a minute. And I was like, I didn't expect
That
us
was
to go there.
bold. Good for him. I'm glad he had the courage
So
of
he
his
did it.
convictions.
And so it gave me a little more perspective. And I asked him how tall the buildings were. And he said, over 50.
Yeah.
And I go, well, I just wanted to hear it. I knew it was. So I can go down to city council. They're over 50.
We know that Grossman uses a lot of undocumented workers. We know that. Most of us probably don't want to go after undocumented workers, but we do want to go after Grossman because sometimes the conditions are horrific for people that he employs. Like he had them working down when there was all that tar and the contamination, which they admitted it was contaminated last at the meeting. He had people working with no face masks, no gloves, no protective gear whatsoever, moving that toxic stuff. We did record it and we did report it.
Just
Yeah.
like I went into the Palladium with somebody moving out and there was black mold and they were renting and they were getting the hell out of there. And they invited me in and I took pictures so that when I talked to the manager, he couldn't, which he denied it.
10 minutes later, oh, they're fixing it now.
He retracted and said, yes, he had confirmed it.
Yeah.
I still have those. They're going to